Welcome back to another Spirit Island video. In this video, we're going to be covering another miscellaneous topic. This time, let's talk about a big problem, cast down. So what is cast down? So cast down is a major power. It's a 9 energy slow power, sun, moon, water, earth, sacred site, 1 range targeting a coastal land, and it's 6 fear, destroy all invaders. So this part of the card is for 9 energy is extremely overcosted, probably by 2 energy. I think for 7 energy, I'll gladly play this card. At 9 energy, it's fairly underwhelming, and the main reason is, well, there's actually plenty of reasons. I mean, there's the targeting restriction, there's a sacred site, as well as the energy and its slow power. So like, there's a lot of things holding this card back. Now, the bottom part of the card is where all of the juice comes from, and that is if you have 2 sun, 2 moon, 4 water, and 4 earth. It instead reads, destroy the board containing target land and everything on that board, and then it says all destroyed blight is removed from the game instead of being returned to the blight card. So if you're able to get this threshold, it allows you to destroy part of the island. Now, think of it like this, right? The adversary is scaling with the number of players, and each player has a board that they're on. When you get rid of one of those boards, the same number of players is constant, but the number of adversary actions is permanently reduced. So obviously, like, that's just really busted, right? So you could delete part of the board. Well, the thing is this card is held back by this threshold, right? To have 2244 on a single spirit is just not really possible for many spirits, right? So like, here's an example, right? I take let's grab Fangs, for instance, right? So Fangs doesn't share any of the water or earth cards. It doesn't have any of those elements on track, and it only has 5 plays here. And so, okay, if I were to, let's say, play 4 cards that are perfect water earth elements, right? I could do that. But then you have to look through the deck. What are the odds I'm going to find all of those cards in the minor deck? I mean, it's not very high. In addition, you also have to think about this energy. So, like, if I were to get down to 4 or 5 plays, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I also have to bank a ton of energy. It's just not possible for a spirit like Fangs. In many spirits, it's like that. A good thematic choice is Ocean. So Ocean is one of the few spirits in the game that can just easily threshold this card. And the reason is you have plenty. Oh no, did I just delete that? Oh, I think I did. It's a shame. Let's try that again. So Ocean, let's see, yeah, is one of the few spirits that can threshold it, and that's because you're starting off with 2 water earth cards, right? So then you have Cast Down, and then you can at least find another water earth card to really threshold this. So like, I mean, you still need the 4 plays, but it's significantly easier. You can also just get the top track elements as well, but it's significantly easier than a lot of other spirits. So what's the point of this video? Well, the thing is and this is something I've known for a while. Actually, before I move on to this next point, so if you're looking at it from a solo spirit, right, being able to threshold and play this card is just not really feasible. So a lot of times in solo play, this card just isn't good. It's not really necessary to win the game, and a lot of times this is a big dud, outside of a few rare instances. Now, as you introduce more spirits to the game, you now introduce more combo and support cards that can make hitting this threshold a lot easier, right? So let's look over here. So like, let's say we have Elemental Boon in Nature's Connection, right? And let's say Fangs here is trying to threshold this bad boy, right? So let's say Fangs has this. Let's say Fangs has decided to play Prey on Builders for some reason, and that's it, right? So now, all of a sudden, Elemental Boon can give Fangs 3 elements. Let's say it's Water, Earth, Sun. And then let's say Nature's Connection gives Fangs 2 Water. So now look, I'm only 2 Earth away from thresholding Cast Down, and I've only played 2 cards. Which means if I can somehow scramble a single or 2 single random Earth cards, or maybe someone can repeat Natures, then I can easily threshold this card. So essentially, When you increase the player count and you increase the number of boards, hitting this threshold is going to be significantly easier. And as I mentioned earlier, if you're able to permanently remove one of the boards from the game, the adversary difficulty drops significantly, and it basically completely trivializes the adversary. Now, into single six adversaries, that's not really needed. I mean, it's really cool to play this card, especially the first couple times you do it. It's really awesome. Everyone's like, it's definitely a memorable moment. I remember the first time I thresholded this on my kitchen table back in 2019, and it was surreal. Everybody at the table was laughing. It was a good time. And now, I mean, when I see this card and someone trying to threshold it, I kind of roll my eyes because it's like, okay, well, when this happens, the puzzle is over, and we then get to kind of dirtle around on the board, continuously playing the game, but the game is already solved. And it kind of, to me, it ruins the puzzle. Now, I've known this to be more, it's more noticeable as you raise the higher diff. So when I was doing my 6-6 series, I noticed several games where it was so difficult that the only out I had at that time was cast down. So the games revolved around me digging through the minor and major deck, trying to optimize and find this card and being able to use this card as soon as I can. Now, I think balancing cards around 6-6 play is a terrible idea. I'm not advocating for that. But it was something that kind of stuck out because, yes, that was my strategy in 6-6 game, but into a single 6 game, that strategy still works. I just didn't really need it. So I believe if once you get up to what, I'd say maybe 3 spirits is too little, but like once you're at the 4 to 6 spirit range, I think you can pretty much guarantee threshold this card if the team wants to, which will instantly win the game. And that's something to kind of to really think about. Now, a lot of like when I say if the team wants to win, as in like players are taking the support cards, players are taking cards that are on element to play this card to threshold it easier. Players are stockpiling. Players are drafting majors. You know, if players are a little bit more aggressive in how they draft, you could easily threshold this card in every game that you play, and that would just instantly win. Well, when I say every game, I mean like almost every game, right? I guess there's 78 majors in the deck, right? Maybe it's 77. I'm not sure. And like if it's at the very bottom, you might miss it, right? But like if it's near with the top 75% of the cards, you'll probably be able to threshold it. So yeah, so this card is really broken. You guys probably already know this, and I'm just kind of catching up, or at least I've kind of tried to put my head in the sand and ignore how broken it is. Now, the next thing I'm going to bring up is this card considered the best card in the game, right? They're the best major in the game. And it's tough for me to say, right? And I think a lot of it is going to come down to the conditions or I guess how you define best card, right? Into 6-6 games, this is one of probably the only out I had to winning. And therefore, objectively, it would be considered the best card if I was looking at it from a 6-6 perspective. But now you look at other majors that are far more effective into single 6 play that can completely flip the game on its head, then you would probably consider those cards to be better. For instance, if I'm playing against France 6, right, just single France 6, if I find Vigor of the Breaking Dawn, this card completely ends the game with maybe 1 or 2 casts, and it's not even close. And it's easier to threshold by a wide range of spirits. So a lot of times we consider this card to be really broken, one of the best cards in the game, and it is if you're looking at it from a single 6 perspective. But once you get to double 6s, or at least double adversaries, higher diff, this card begins to fall off, and cards like Cast Down begin to go up. So the next thing I want to point out, and I don't have a structure for I'm just rambling, guys. So this might not be perfectly ordered and whatnot, but I'm just speaking from what comes on the top of my head. So over here, I have a bunch of cards from the minor deck that kind of pre-draft or support the cast down play, right? So like at the very top, these are like cards that are just really good regardless, right? You have Nature's Connection, being able to give 2 elements, Elemental Boon, giving 3 elements, Twin Days allowing 2 repeats, which is great for energy stockpile or maybe like a Nature's Connection. You have Spur, which is like an extra card play. And then you have Sky Stretch, which is perfect elements for cast down that also allows you to make a card fast. And it gives you range to a coastal land. It's like as if these 2 cards were meant for each other. So you have these 5 amazing miners, right? And then below it, I have 5 more just good miners that are like pretty much, these cards are always an option when you're playing with your spirit. Like they're never not a bad option. They just might not be the correct answer, right? So like constant currents, just sun, water, earth, once again, just hitting that threshold. And this is fast disruption, Dahan mobility, Mez, which is a water, earth, 0, isolate, and it's like a pseudo defend card. Call to trade, one of the best miners in the game. It's a ravage skip, water, earth. Treacherous, very flexible card. It can disrupt builds, it can add wilds. Gift of Power, Moon, Water, Earth, and this allows you to kind of dig for more miners. So you have these 5 great cards, and then down here, I have 6 more cards that I think are less good, but still really good. I mean, then again, I think Sucking Ooze, Encompassing War, these are cards that could actually even be a little bit higher, but you guys get the point. These are all really good cards. Even Steam Vents, which is kind of medium in some games, in other games it's going to be incredible, right? Because it's sometimes it's just a town kill, or it's a kill and explorer. And then probably the weakest is probably these 2, Pull Beneath, and then Shore Seas, and then Infested Aquifers is also weak, but there are some games where it's just really strong. For instance, if you can add a disease and a land, and then being able to nuke all of the explorers, there's a lot of tech here that a lot of spirits like to use. But so the point of this is, so I actually grabbed every Water Earth card in the deck, right? And these are all of them. And notice like they're like all of them are playable, right? I think maybe like this and possibly this are like the weakest of the 3. But like I would gladly take any of these cards on majority of spirits. And now I have Gift of Constancy, which is one of the best miners in the game. And it's also Sun Earth. So it's also helping you threshold this. It's not as good as some of the ones above it, but it's still a good card. So essentially, by drafting just solid, good cards, you're falling into the thresholds needed or the cards needed to threshold cast down, and that's because they have those water earths. So the next part of this video is, does cast down need to be fixed? Is it too overpowered? And I think the answer is yes. I think the effect should stay in the game, because everybody that uses this card or has ever used it, it's a memorable experience. Whenever they think of Spirit Island, this is what they're thinking. And I think that is important, because Spirit Island isn't meant to be, well, I shouldn't say isn't meant to be, but Spirit Island, the average Spirit Island player isn't someone that's playing crazy high diff games. It isn't someone that's trying to optimize this every game they play, right? The average Spirit Island player is just playing Spirit Island, and if they see this card, they're going to be like, wow, that's going to be so cool. Let me try to do this, but they're not optimizing their strat around this. But so that's why I think this card should still exist and not be completely gutted. I know there's a lot of players and a lot of talk about completely getting rid of Gift of Constancy and then significantly nerfing Nature's and Elemental Boon. Elemental Boon is giving 2 elements, is what I was told, and then I forget what Nature's Connection was supposed to do. But I'm not going to talk about that, but I'm going to talk about some changes to cast down. And so Ted, one of the developers of Spirit Island, actually I think he's the lead developer, he mentioned how what he would do is change the cost here to 7 energy, and then he would make this bottom cost +5 as an additional cost to sinking the island. So this bottom threshold, you're looking at 12 energy versus and then the top part's 7. And I really like that change, but I would actually go a step further. So I think the 7 cost for cast down is on point, I think. Now for the threshold, what I would do is I would actually go with +4 energy per player. Actually, I'm just going to use so per player. And then all spirits can pay towards that. So the spirit that is playing, so like if I have a 4 spirit game, right? That means cast down is going to cost 7 energy, and then if we want to threshold it, it's going to cost an additional 12. So that's going to be 19 energy. And now that one spirit has to contribute the 7, and then the remaining spirits have to come up with 12. And I don't know when you would make that decision. Maybe you'd make it in the slow, or maybe you would make it when you play the card. I'm not sure. But essentially forcing the rest of the island to pay this cost. And you know what? +4 per player, that might be too much. Maybe this should say +3. No, let's change this to +3. Maybe I was getting over. Wait, actually no. +4 per player would mean 16. Oh gosh. So 3 per player is +12. You know what? Maybe it's +2. I think. Let's try that. So in a 4-player game, this would be 8, and this would cost 15. Yeah, that seems pretty good. Because at 15 energy, I mean, that's a pretty significant price. And also, this could still be, I'm trying to think of +1 per player. It'd be +4, and then it would cost 11, which is what he would recommend. Yeah, I think between 1 and 2, additional cost, I think would be a good cost. So either, like I said, +2 per player, or just do what Ted said and just make the threshold cost 11, which is essentially 1 per player in a 4-player game. One of those options I think would be a good change to cast down. Another option that you could do is you could make it once you threshold this card gets removed from the game. I don't really like that idea, but it is a fix. Another one could be after you threshold this card, you forget it and then gain a new major. Obviously, removing the card versus forgetting it, virtually the same thing, but not exactly. But it's another way to look at it. But I really think just modifying the threshold here to being, like I said, +2 per player and make it originally cost 7, I think is a pretty solid fix. I still think it's going to trivialize a lot of games, but at least with that nerf, I think it will feel a lot less game warping into those higher diff games, while also still being able to be played by newer players that are looking to play Spirit Island and use this card. So hopefully you guys enjoyed my rambling video. It's been a while since I've done one of these. I have a couple other topics that are on my list, and I might get to them. If you like this video, like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next time.